This is Ken Smith reminding you it happened today, April 29th, but the year was 429. Joan of Arc arrives at the siege of Orleans. She will be the youngest person in history to command the armies of a nation. April 29th, 1852. The first edition of the Roget's Thesaurus is published. It was on this day, April 29th, 1927, construction of the Spirit of St. Louis, the monoplane which Charles Lindbergh flew across the Atlantic, is completed. It was on this day, April 29th, 1943, that Lutheran pastor Dietrich Bonhoeffer is arrested for a plot to assassinate Adolf Hitler. He will be hanged 1 month before World War II ends. It was on this day, April 29th, 1967, RESPECT, Respect, the single released by Aretha Franklin. It was on this day, April 29th, 1975, that the United States begins to evacuate its citizens from Saigon in response to the advance of North Vietnamese forces, resulting in the end of U.S. involvement in Vietnam. It was on this day, April 29th, 1990, that wrecking cranes began tearing down the Berlin Wall at the Brandenburg Gate. It was on this day, April 29th, 2004, that Oldsmobile builds its final car, ending 107 years of production. It was on this day, April 29th, 2018, that the animated series The Simpsons surpasses Gunsmoke with 635 episodes. It was on this day, April 29th, 2019, when over 700 people were infected with measles in the United States, the highest number in 25 years. But all that happened on April 29th in the past. This is April 29th, 2020. Uncertainty, anxiety fills the air with the unknown future related to the pandemic. Harvard University announced, given the uncertainty caused by the pandemic, it's leaving the door open for a fall semester without students on campus. We cannot be certain that it will be safe to resume all usual activities by autumn. Consequently, we will need to prepare for a scenario in which much of our learning at Harvard will be conducted remotely. In all, a survey of almost 2,000 people over the age of 18 was just completed. 72% said that they expect to reach a breaking point by mid-June if stay-at-home orders aren't lifted. In fact, 100% of those who responded to the survey said that they would snap if this all lasts longer than 6 months. The survey was conducted between the first several days in April. At that time, 16% of people said they had already hit their breaking point, with that number rising to 25% within the next 2 weeks. That means that 1 in 4 Americans have already hit their wits' end by now. When broken down by gender, 20% of surveyed women had already reached their breaking point at the time of the survey. 12% of men. Half of the women felt they'd hit rock bottom within 4 weeks, and 76% within 2 months. The research also found that 69% of Americans feel extremely worried about flying on an airplane again. 76% are extremely worried about taking a cruise. 62% are extremely worried about going to a restaurant or using Uber or a ride-sharing service. More than half, 53%, feel the same way about going to the hospital should they suffer any kind of medical emergency. Of those afraid of going on a cruise, 43% anticipate the fear will last forever. The same can be said of 21% of people who say they may never eat out again. The findings seem to highlight the increasing serious implications of the stay-at-home orders and puts everything in a sense of immediate urgency. Younger Americans appear to be especially susceptible to breaking down. 60% of those surveyed, Gen Zers, said they expect to reach the breaking point after 4 weeks. 80% said they can only handle another 2 months of lockdown. In all, more than a third of young adults ages 18 to 24 admit that they are right now, at their wits' end, versus 22% who are over the age of 45. Many people have been saying that the world and the country may never return to normal. A staggering 75% believe that air travel will never return to what it once was. The same is true of sporting events, concerts, movie theaters, and hotels. So what's driving all of this? The top breaking point, according to the survey, is loneliness. The second reason for all of this extreme anxiety, fear, concern about the future is that those who are locked home find themselves in constant arguments with their family or spouse, arguing over unimportant things like visiting the grocery store. The third reason is just a sense of constant anxiety. In the meantime, we have to decide for ourselves how we will look to the future. Will we look at the future with fear and unable to answer 1,000 questions? That's why Jesus said, do not worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to have a whole new set of problems and complications. Instead, he said, just focus on today. Do what you can now. O you of little faith, don't be afraid. This is Ken Smith reminding you it happened today, April 29th, 2020.